Thank you very much for coming. I know you guys are very busy and during the sessions. So purpose of this interview is I'd like to introduce the SES in general to the Japanese people, because you have this event in some other region in Asia, but not yet in Japan. But actually, it was 6 or 7 years ago that I initially joined this session, this event, and I come here every year. And every year, I get very good information from SES. So I would like to take this opportunity to introduce SES for more, search engine marketers in Japan.
Okay. We're always happy to see you every year.
Yes. So first of all, why don't you quickly introduce yourself to the audience?
So I'm Matt McGowan. I'm Managing Director of Incisive Media in the Americas, with global responsibility for SES, ClickZ, and Search Engine Watch.
And I'm Mike Grehan. I'm the Global VP of Content, and I work with Matt on the content side of the business, arranging speakers and sessions for SES, and also contributors to Search Engine Watch and ClickZ.
I'm Adaline. I'm the Asia editor for ClickZ. We've got our site clickz.asia, which covers digital marketing and advertising. We've also have marketing practitioners who write about search, social, display, and mobile on our site as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So my first question is maybe for Matt. What's the highlight of this year's SES event?
Mike Grehan.
Okay.
There has to be a downside to everything.
No, it's our second year in San Francisco. We were used to be in San Jose.
Yeah.
And it's great that we're here in the city because the event is more accessible to people who can only spend a few hours of their day or a day or two and not the whole week. So they can come here from work for a few hours. So the highlight's been to really see some people attend this event this year that couldn't make it in years past. That said, the content, which thanks to Mike, has been extremely strong, and we've gotten really good feedback.
I actually noticed that maybe 6 or 7 years ago, most of the topic are concentrated on the search.
Yeah.
But maybe the last 2 to 3 years, you also started covering the lots of the topic about the social, or display and video. So after making the changes in the contents of your event, do you see any changes in the participant?
Yeah, we do. SES historically, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, was full of search marketing professionals, consultants, people, some in-house SEOs and such. Some of those companies that were forward-thinking enough to have those positions. But as we've broadened out content and brought Mike on board to cover more general marketing, online marketing mix, keeping search at the core. We've seen a lot more marketing titles. So the attendees, you get your marketing managers, your VPs of marketing and such, which we used to not get. So now there's more marketing titles than search titles, which is interesting. But those marketing professionals are responsible for search as well. So.
I think maybe 7 years ago, people would look at search and it was kind of like in a silo. And it was still kind of nascent and just becoming kind of a discipline within marketing. So a lot of people were more perhaps interested even in the SEO side of it. And Google has always been front and center. But I think as the industry changes now and the technology changes with it, then the audience also changes. So what we try to do with the conference and also with ClickZ is to reflect what's happening industry-wide and not just one part of the industry.
I also noticed that this year, you guys started having like accelerator track or a kickstart track.
Yeah.
So could you explain a little bit about the background, why you decide to start such kind of the track?
There's a couple of reasons. I mean, first and foremost is the online marketing professionals getting more savvy. And there's still a lot of beginners, but the the universe of experienced marketing professionals and search marketers has grown, exponentially over the last few years. So in order to bring them back to the show and to give them, content that was specifically designed for them, Mike came up with the Accelerator brand. And what we say is, if you have 3 to 5 years experience in the space, this is probably the right track for you. There's no 101s, there's no introductions. We don't give any definitions on what the acronyms mean and such. This is really for people who want to roll up their sleeves to get their hands dirty and take themselves to the next step, as well as meet their colleagues and their colleagues in the industry that they may not get a chance to meet on a daily basis. So Mike, we launched the whole entire event around the Accelerator brand, and then we bring it in alongside these larger events as well, so that there's a reason for not just the newbie to come, but someone who's
But we still do get a lot of people who are coming into online marketing new. When we say newbie, Matt and I talk about this a lot. It doesn't mean to say that they're new to marketing, but they're very new to online. And a high percentage of the audience, very high percentage of the audience is fairly new. So we have the Kickstarter track, as we call it, and those are the introductions, so that people can get used to the terminology and how things work. So they're kind of one end of the scale to the other. Kickstarters for people coming in new, and accelerators for people who've had kind of 3 to 5 years experience.
Yeah, it sounds very interesting because I understand that the search. The U.S. have the more the history in search compared with Japan. So our understanding is that the U.S. search market is more mature than other market, but still you have lots of the newcomers. So which means that more and more the new maybe small companies start marketing online. So that's why you having more and more newcomers to this event.
Yeah, well, we also find that large companies too, they may be very active in network-based advertising or outdoor advertising, and are just starting still, believe it or not, just starting to get involved in the online piece. And it's still a very small piece of most of their budgets. It's not a significant number often, though there are a few exceptions to that rule. So we'll get a lot of new people who have been in marketing, as Mike said, for 20, 30 years, but they've never done anything online. So they need that Kickstarter. They need to understand what the industry is all about, and then we'd like to bring them back a couple, 2, 3 years later, and give them a refresher on the more advanced topics.
There also seems to be a trend. And there's kind of an argument goes on in the industry about this, but a trend to people wanting to do things like their SEO in-house. They can't do all of that in-house, but it's kind of like I say, a trend leaning towards being able to train their own staff so they can handle that kind of thing. So we do get a lot of large brands who will send a number of people from their marketing team to get a better understanding of search and social, how it works, and then to be able to manage it better in-house.
It's interesting. We see a lot of people come back, like this year or last year, and now they work for Fortune 500 companies. But 5 years ago, they were an independent consultant. But these companies have now wised up, and they're bringing this, like Mike said, they're bringing this knowledge in-house, so they know what's going on.
Okay. So besides search, there's the several the sessions talking about the display or remarketing, retargeting, and actually remarketing, retargeting is just started becoming a hot topic among the Japanese users. But still, there maybe the limited number of advertisers are familiar with the concept of remarketing, retargeting. So I think U.S. advertisers has more and advanced knowledge or experience. So is there anything that you can share with the Japanese advertisers how we can successfully use the remarketing, retargeting technology to maybe increase the conversion, for example?
Well, I mean, there's two main types. You got your search retargeting, right? And then you got your site retargeting. And we discussed both here. The biggest thing that I've noticed is 3 years ago in the United States, we were running these sessions, and not many people were engaged. They weren't executing on retargeting. This year, primarily end of last year, the entire room is executing on retargeting or remarketing campaign. So we've moved the sessions into the accelerator track because now it's not about defining what it is, but it's about talking about best practices.
I think a lot of search engine optimizers had been so focused purely just on search and not what happened afterwards, whereas now they're becoming much more kind of broader in their outlook and the way that they work with clients, wanting to offer better opportunities. And search retargeting obviously is a natural extension to what they've been offering from search engine optimization.
Yeah, and it's also one of your highest ROI kind of channels. It's extremely cheap. CPMs are low. You know, you can buy it on a CPC basis or in other ways. And it's all about retention, which is interesting, you know. So
you've got to know how to do it well. I mean, there are privacy issues that go with that, and
creepy
you get it wrong.
too.
I mean, you know, you go to one website and you look at a digital camera, and then you go to another website which is about children's toys or whatever it is, and then you see another ad for a digital camera, and then you go to a different website entirely for, I don't know, you know, bird watching, and then there's another digital camera ad there, and you think this thing is following me around, you know, and then you suddenly realize.
Well, there's some other interesting oopses, I think, in the retargeting space. You know, people share computers these days, so you know, and retargeting is based on the computer, not the individual. So you got to be careful what you search for and where you go, because the other people in your household may learn real quick what you're doing.
Yeah, retargeting has its own set of surprises.
So do you guys expect any the legal restriction is coming?
That's the biggest issue, I think. And in Europe, they're handling it much quicker, I think, than we are here in the States or in Asia. But there's a big question mark over what's going to be allowed and what's not going to be allowed. And the new browsers that are coming out are going to change the game. So
it's a difficult thing because privacy is a big issue, and it's a worry for the end user. But there has to be kind of a trade-off, because the more information that you share about yourself online, the more refined the targeting and the advertising becomes, and therefore it becomes more relevant. And you know, this applies with retargeting or remarketing, whichever way you want to phrase it. And people have been deleting cookies on their machines, so you keep picking them up all the time. But I mean, search, in a sense, I've used this many times before, you know, with search, people look at a search engine like Google. Google is a black box, and nobody knows what goes on in the black box, and they don't realize that Google is looking at you, and you are a black box, and Google has no idea what goes on inside you. And if you two guys share some more information, then the kind of results that Google can give you are much more relevant. But it's the fear that people have about how much information would you share with a third party. So yeah, I mean, regulatory issues are difficult to deal with. We'll see.
Interesting. And once more and more the search marketers start leveraging the remarketing or retargeting or some other display ads, then probably the next issue is how to measure the ROI or how to attribute the success or credit to the various media. So how the U.S. and the marketers handle that issues?
I mean, we discussed them in the sessions. We discussed different attribution models, and they're as simple as allocating everything to the last click, and then or some sort of you know, spread across all the different channels. It's unique, I think, case by case basis. I mean, one of the things with remarketing is it's even unique based. Each site can have multiple remarketing campaigns. So, you know, you could send people who hit certain pages, like checkout pages, you may want to remarket to differently than people who leave items in shopping carts. You may want to remarket differently based on how they came to your site. So, I mean, attribution, there is no one answer to that question. The interesting thing that I always say is it's so cheap remarketing that it really, I mean, unless you have razor thin margins, you can probably figure out a way to attribute the costs. But
it is difficult when you go cross-channel. I think that's the hardest part. I mean, online marketing or digital, one of the beauties of that is it's totally accountable. You know that you can measure everything against whatever KPIs you create for yourself, but at the same time you're also dealing with the end user who is not a machine or digital, it's a human being, and then trying to understand that kind of buying behavior. When I worked offline, we always used to try and measure the impact of PR in a campaign against advertising. But if I ask you, did you buy my product because you liked the PR, an editorial piece, or was it because you saw my advert, or did you see something outside, or was it on TV? And you look and you go,
That's true.
yeah.
Okay. And another big topic in this event, maybe the search and social, and actually Google Plus is also the big things, and even in Japan. So many people in Japan also talking about how Google can be successful in the social field. But other people also started speculating that Facebook might be studying the search business, and which might be easier than Google going into the search.
It's funny that you should say that, because people do assume, and I've said this jokingly, Google now has something to compare with, not necessarily even to compete with, although that may be the measure of the thing. So Google Plus may be competing and compared with Facebook. So is Facebook going to launch a crawler and start crawling the web and use it? No, they're not. But the fact of the matter is, Facebook has always been used for search. They've always been involved in search, just the same as LinkedIn has been involved in search. All social networks do have that element of social search, where people will go and ask a question, and then they'll get an answer. And just the same as you go to an algorithm-based search engine like Google and type in a few words and get an answer. So social search has always been around. But I honestly don't see Facebook, trying to get into the search business, and that's Google's core business, and Google getting into social media. Why do they want to do that? Well, I mean, there are a couple of reasons. Probably the most important one is if they can get, they already have a connectivity map of the way the websites link together. And if they can put a social map over the top of that, then it becomes a bit more relevant. Having said that, to launch a social network, you need a network, not just the technology.
I'd also argue that search is changing. So if Facebook was to get into the search business, it wouldn't look anything like Google's search business.
No.
Because Google's search business is extremely profitable, extremely useful, but it's going to look very different, I think, in 5 to 10 years.
I mean, advertising is going to change, and the way that we receive commercial messages, as it were, marketing messages, is going to change dramatically, and as that changes, then search changes with it.
We had one of the speakers here who was responsible for the for Facebook's API, amongst other things, and he talked about the stories, the promoted stories that they do. He says that's the future of advertising, according to Facebook, not little pictures and a couple lines of text on little boxes. So,
which is why you'll see many of the sessions. I mean, we do one session specifically around storytelling marketing, but in just about every session where you're talking about social media, storytelling now comes into that as an element of discussion.
Okay. Yeah, actually, some Japanese media, probably because Facebook is growing so fast, so some Japanese media started saying, maybe the Google's era will end soon and taken over by
People
Facebook.
have
been saying that for 10 years. It's as strong as it's ever been.
It's about Motorola. I mean, that said, though, the landscape will continue to change. 5 years ago, you couldn't spend money with Apple in an advertising basis. Now you can. People are spending more time on their iPhones and their iPads. Google, in that environment, Google's just an app like everyone else. Probably not even the most useful app either.
I mean, we talk about the connected consumer, connected marketing, which is what this week is all about. Connected Marketing Week is all about that connected consumer. In 2020, it's predicted that there will be 50 billion connected devices around the world. So that suggests the change in the way that technology moves, the way that people do marketing, but more than anything else, it's the change in the consumer, the way that people, look for items, the way that they purchase. A lot of things are going to change over that period of time. Is Google, is Facebook the Google killer? I don't know. Google is great at what it does. It does search, and if anybody else wants to get into the marketplace, do something else, because I wouldn't launch a search engine up against Google now, would you?
and mobile. Google's great at mobile
Same.
too. So, you know, and that seems to be where all their investment's going moving forward. So.
And if they can pop out shopping and pay $12 billion for Motorola, you know, so.
Yeah.
Can I just add maybe, I mean, I don't know where you see Bing is going as well, because Bing partners with Facebook, and then Bing has a partnership with Baidu in China. So curious to see where Bing is going as well.
The other great thing about Bing, from my own point of view, is that they don't really challenge Google on the same playing field. They have tried to distinguish themselves as being a different type of player. And although you do go there and there's a search box and you type some things in, you may go to Bing for entirely different reasons than general purpose search at Google. So.
Right, specialty search.
Yeah.
Bing does travel very well.
Exactly. I mean, Bing is very much into some of these verticals that they, and I think what they'd rather do is a few things really well. Let's try and do everything in a mediocre fashion, you know.
But the Facebook relationship's key. I think.
Yeah.
That's a very good move on Microsoft's part.
Interesting. So, my last question is there any possibility that SES coming to Japan in the future?
Yes.
As long as you sponsor it.
Okay. We try.
We, you know,
Absolutely. Love to come back to Tokyo, yeah.
Adaline's here. Christoph's here. We're rolling out more and more events in Asia. We have 3 now in Shanghai, Singapore, and Hong Kong. We have a team out of Hong Kong who's going to be supporting it. And markets like Japan, Indonesia, India, you know, these markets are very interesting to us, and there's business to be done there, and you know, we want to bring the education, the best practices, the networking, the community to those markets as well. So yes, it's very much a possibility.
We have a good footprint now, and I think the most important thing is actually being part of that business community. So having, you know, the base that we have in Hong Kong, and then working in China, and then obviously coming to Japan, maybe to Tokyo, but you know, making sure that everything that we provide and the show that we put together is specifically made for that particular audience, for the Japanese audience.
Right, that's customized and tailored for that market. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we really look forward to it.
So do I. So do I. So does Mike.
Yeah,
so does
absolutely.
Adelaide.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks for
very
coming.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.